was the new kid again. My family had moved from Michigan to a small town in Connecticut at the end of the summer, and I was starting my junior year at a high school called West Hollow. It was tucked back in a quiet suburban area, surrounded by woods and old colonial houses. I didn't know a single person. The worst part was lunch. Everyone already had their friends, their spots, their inside jokes. I walked into the cafeteria on my first day with a tray of food and a growing knot in my stomach. Every table was full, and not just full of people who didn't want anyone new sitting with them, except one. It was a long table tucked against the far wall, and only two people were sitting there. A boy and a girl. Both of them had pale skin, dark hair, and an oddly similar way of sitting, as if they mirrored each other. I walked over and asked if I could sit. The boy looked at the girl, then nodded without smiling. I sat down and introduced myself. The boy said his name was Caleb, and the girl was Iris. They didn't offer much else, but they weren't rude either. They asked where I was from, what classes I had, that sort of thing. I noticed quickly that no one else looked in their direction. No one even acknowledged the table. When the bell rang, they stood up at the same time and walked out without saying goodbye. That night, around 8:30, I got a message on Instagram. It was from Iris. No followers, no posts, but her profile picture was her. The message said, "Hey, you seemed chill. Want to come hang for a bit?" I hesitated. I didn't have anything better to do. I asked where. She replied, "There's a hiking trail behind the old rec center. Meet us there. It's quiet." A few minutes later, Caleb sent the same thing from a different account. "Come through, just for a bit." I asked if I needed to bring anything. "Just yourself," Iris said. So I grabbed a hoodie, slipped out the back door, and walked the 10 minutes to the rec center. It was dark by then. The building was completely shut down. No lights. The trail behind it was narrow and looked like it hadn't been walked in weeks, but I stepped into the woods anyway. I kept my phone flashlight on and walked slowly, feeling the branches brush against my arms. It wasn't long before I heard whispering. Not words, just soft sounds ahead of me. I called out, "Iris? Caleb?" The whispers stopped. Then I heard footsteps, 2 sets, walking side by side. I called again, but no answer. My flashlight flickered, and for a second I thought I saw someone dart between the trees. I told myself it was just them messing around, but when I turned around to head back, someone was standing behind me. It was Caleb. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't saying anything, just staring. "Where's Iris?" I asked. He stepped aside and pointed down a smaller, unmarked path. I didn't want to follow it, but I didn't want to seem scared either, so I walked. He stayed behind me. Iris was standing by a small wooden bridge that crossed a shallow stream. She looked pale, more than before. Her eyes were wide like she'd been crying, or like she hadn't blinked in a while. "I'm glad you came," she said. "Most people don't come this far." Before I could respond, I heard a splash behind me. I turned around, but Caleb was gone. Just ripples in the stream. I turned back to Iris and asked, "What is this?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped toward me and whispered something I couldn't make out. I asked her to repeat it. Still nothing. Just another step forward. I started backing away. "Okay, this is weird. I'm leaving." I turned around and started walking fast, then faster, until I was practically running through the brush. I didn't stop until I was out of the woods and halfway down the road back home. When I finally got back, I locked my bedroom door and told myself I was just being paranoid. The next morning at school, neither Iris nor Caleb was there. The day after that, still no sign of them. When I asked a girl in my history class about them, she looked confused. "Iris and Caleb? We don't have students by those names." I pulled out my phone and showed her Iris's profile picture. Her face went pale. "That girl, she used to go here. A couple years ago, she and her brother drowned in a quarry behind the rec center." I laughed it off. I said it had to be someone else. That night I got another message from Iris's account. "You ran. Most people do, but not forever." I didn't sleep. The next few nights were worse. I'd hear tapping on my window, even though I was on the second floor. Shadows in the corner of my room that disappeared when I looked directly at them. Whispers coming from the vents. I told my parents. My mom thought I was homesick. My dad told me to turn my phone off at night, but it wasn't just the phone anymore. One night I woke up to my bedroom door creaking open. I had definitely locked it. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and saw a shape. Tall, thin, standing just inside the doorway. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. There was no one there, but my closet door, which I always kept shut, was open. I didn't sleep in my room that night. The next day I tried deleting Iris's and Caleb's profiles, but they were already gone, erased, like they never existed. I asked the school office to look up their names. They couldn't find any record. No enrollment, no emergency contacts, nothing. One evening, I got home to find muddy footprints in the hallway leading to my room. I locked every door and called the cops. They came, searched the house, found nothing, told me to check with my parents that maybe it was a prank. My parents were out of town that weekend. I didn't stay home again after that. I crashed at a friend's house for 3 days straight, then finally went back when I thought things had calmed down. But the house didn't feel the same. It was like something had followed me from those woods. Not just Iris and Caleb, but something darker. Like whatever they were a part of, I had gotten too close to. One night I heard my mom screaming from the hallway. I jumped up and ran out to see her standing in front of the bathroom, shaking. There was writing on the mirror, in something dark and dripping. "He's almost ready." My dad called the police again. This time they set up a camera in the hallway. We were all on edge for days, but nothing happened until the camera footage came back. At 3:12 a.m., the night before, the camera showed my bedroom door opening by itself. No one stepped out, but the reflection in the hallway mirror showed two figures standing behind me while I slept. They were holding hands and staring at me. That was the last night I spent in that house. We moved a few months later, after too many things that couldn't be explained kept happening. Open windows, missing items, cold spots, and those whispers in the vents that never stopped. Even now, I don't walk near wooded trails. I don't respond to messages from people I don't know, and I don't trust quiet tables in cafeterias. Because I've learned the hard way, sometimes the people who seem the loneliest aren't people at all. It was winter of my sophomore year. The days were short, the skies constantly gray, and the air had that biting chill that made your bones feel stiff, even before stepping outside. The school was in one of those weird periods where half the staff were either sick or out for some training seminar, so substitutes were everywhere, filling classrooms, lunch duty, and gym. I had gym last period right before dismissal. It was an odd class in general, only about 18 of us. Instead, a man we hadn't seen before waited by the bleachers with a clipboard. He was tall, with a thick gray beard, but didn't look elderly. Maybe mid-50s, with a wiry build. He wore an old coach's windbreaker and track pants, the kind that made noise when you walked. He didn't smile, not even during roll call. When he said my name, his eyes lingered for a moment too long. Just a second, but enough for me to notice. I looked away. We were told to pair off for handball, but the whole class was sluggish. People mostly sat on the floor talking or texting. The substitute didn't seem to care. He watched for a few minutes, then disappeared through the hallway door that led to the equipment room and locker area. Nobody saw him again for the rest of the period. The bell rang. Kids scrambled to the locker rooms to change and leave for the day. I followed, ready to get out of there, but when I got to my locker, it wouldn't open. I tried the combo, my usual 3 numbers, again and again. Nothing. I paused and rubbed my fingers on the lock, thinking maybe the cold was messing with it. Tried it again, still nothing. I didn't want to miss the bus, but my backpack with everything I needed was inside. I left the locker room and went looking for the sub. I found him alone in the narrow hallway near the office door, staring at a bulletin board. I called out and he turned, almost startled. "Locker's jammed," I said. "I can't remember the combo for some reason. I've tried like 10 times. He gave a slight nod, then said, "Wait here, I'll grab the list." I leaned against the cold brick wall while he stepped into the PE office. A few minutes later, he came back out holding a blue binder. It was already open to a page. "Come with me," he said. I followed him back to the locker room, kinda surprised when he walked right in with me. The room was mostly empty now, echoing with drips of water and distant footsteps. Only one other person was still in there, tying their shoes by the benches, getting ready to leave. We got to my locker. He looked at the paper and started entering the combination. It didn't work. He tried again. Still didn't open. Each time the lock clicked and failed, he glanced at me and gave a weird half smile, like this was somehow funny. I tried smiling back just to avoid awkwardness. But something about his presence, how close he was standing, how slow his hand moved on the dial, made me uncomfortable. After the third attempt, he put his hand on my shoulder. I froze. It was light at first, almost like a gesture of reassurance. Then he said, "Don't worry, we'll figure this out." But he didn't remove his hand. It started to shift downward. Casual, but not casual enough. I stepped back and said quickly, "It's okay, I'll try again later. I'm probably just tired." Without waiting for him to respond, I turned away and pretended to dig through my gym shorts like I was checking my pockets for something. He ignored what I said and tried the combo again. This time, the lock clicked and popped open. "There it is," he said, smiling in a way that made my stomach twist. Then he turned and walked out of the room without another word. I waited a good 20 seconds before grabbing my stuff. I moved fast, unzipping the locker, throwing on my jeans and hoodie, jamming everything into my bag. I was the only one left now. Then the lights went out, not flickered, just shut off, all at once. The only light came from a small frosted window up high near the ceiling. My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't even fully dressed yet. I pulled up my pants and didn't bother tying them, just shoved my feet into my shoes and zipped my hoodie halfway. Something about the silence was wrong. I grabbed my backpack and started walking through the dark, past the rows of lockers, toward the exit door at the back. It led outside, behind the gym. I moved slowly, checking every intersection of lockers before turning corners. I was one row away from the door when I reached the T-junction, one path leading left toward freedom, the other right into more rows of lockers. I turned my head to look right, just instinctively. That's when I saw him. Half of his face was visible around the lockers. He was just standing there peeking at me. One eye part of his mouth, motionless. I didn't scream. I didn't speak. I turned and sprinted. I heard him call after me, his voice echoing. Wait, it's not what it looks like," but I didn't stop. I slammed through the back door into the freezing air. Rain poured down instantly, soaking me in seconds. I didn't care. I just kept running. Off school property, down the sidewalk. I got home drenched and shivering. My parents were still at work. I locked every door and went straight to my room. I couldn't stop shaking, not just from the cold. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall for what felt like an hour. It all started making sense. I never forgot my locker combination. It was muscle memory. There was no reason it should have suddenly not worked. Someone changed it. Someone who had access to the combinations. Someone who wanted to create a reason to be alone with me. The sub. I kept thinking about what would have happened if the lock never opened. If I hadn't noticed him in the dark. If I hadn't run. I never told anyone. I wish I had, but the shame, the fear of not being believed, it kept my mouth shut. I pretended it never happened and avoided the gym hallway for the rest of the semester. I even told the front office I lost my lock and needed a new one just so I could change lockers. The sub never came back. Or if he did, I never saw him again. But sometimes I wonder how often had he done that before? How many other students had moments they never talked about?